This is Hard Parking, brought to you by Right Honda and Right Toyota out of Scottsdale, Arizona. And I'm your host, Jay Finning, recording from my home studio here in Gilbert, Arizona. Coming up on today's show, Paul Bonnett joins us. Paul is a Grassroots drifter. He's been drifting for about a year and a half. You'll learn all of that and more. You wanted more car talk? You have more car talk. I think we can make an exception for an episode or two. But before we get to that, this is some late breaking news. A few days ago, the state of Nevada only approved 10. Tesla wanted 5,000 of their Robotaxis approved, and Nevada only approved 10. However, Sawyer Merritt, he's a good follow on X. He reports that Waymo secured their full autonomous vehicle network permit approval, enabling paid public Robotaxi operations in Vegas with up to 1,000 vehicles deployable in the next 12 months. The deployment occurs on the same day Nevada's Transportation Authority also granted Tesla's permit for up to 5,000, up from 10. Robotaxis highlighting accelerated competition in commercial autonomous services as both companies move forward beyond interim restrictions. So, big news. If you go to Vegas, you're going to see a lot of these Robotaxis here within the next year. What are your thoughts on that? Honestly, I don't actually care what your thoughts are on that. Coming up after this word from Marcus Foundry Spark Forge, Paul Bonnett.
If you run a business and you're tired of juggling tools, chasing logins, and constantly feeling like the tech side of things is heavier than it should be, this might hit close to home. That tech fatigue usually shows up as an outdated website, reviews slipping through the cracks, missed calls when you're busy, or social media that's always on the back burner. Most business owners know something's off, but fixing it feels like a bigger project than they have time for. SparkForge exists to take that weight off. It handles the tech behind the scenes, helps clean up how your business shows up online, makes sure calls and messages don't get mixed, keeps reviews from slipping through the cracks, and wrangles social marketing so you don't disappear for weeks. If you're curious, there's a short discovery session, and it comes with 90 days free to actually see if it makes things easier. No pitch, no pressure, just a real conversation about what's working, what's broken, and what you can simplify. So head over to getsparkforge.ai/hardparking to get started.
Paul Bonnett is my guest. He is the nephew of show sponsor Jane D'Amelio, but that doesn't matter. She sent me some of your videos. I was like, yeah, this dude's cool. And she mentioned Grassroots drifting. So a lot to cover, right?
Yep.
But, welcome to Hard Parking.
Thank you. Thanks for having me.
Tell us a little bit about yourself, and I'll just ask follow-up questions as we go along.
So my name's Paul. I drift, Grassroots drifting. I drive a 2007 Nissan 350Z. Typically, I drift at Thompson Speedway in Connecticut, sometimes Riverside Speedway in Groveton, New Hampshire. There's been a few other tracks I've been to, but those aren't as frequent. So,
hold on. So explain to half my listener base probably has no idea what Grassroots drifting means, or they may not even know what Grassroots is. Kind of explain that term versus maybe it's something we turn on, ESPN 12 and see.
So Grassroots drifting, Grassroots is going to refer to as far as NASCAR goes, that's what most people would know, is the mainstream circle track racing. But then Grassroots circle track racing is like the people that are doing it at the hometown. Some of them are trying to get to that level of being a professional, and some of them are just going out there having fun. And then obviously the thing is just putting the car sideways and driving through the track.
And so, if you don't mind me asking, and you could, but I'm going to ask it anyway. How old are you?
I am 33.
33. You don't look a day past 22, to be honest with you. So, you look really young, maybe 21. And so, what got you into draft? Even drifting. Period. Even before the Grassroots. What's your history? Where do you come from?
So I started out riding dirt bikes when I was 4 years old. I did that till probably a couple of years ago. I broke my back in 3 places on a dirt bike. After that, I slowed down on that a little bit. I got into stunt riding motorcycles. Went from stunt riding dirt bikes to, street bikes to Harleys. And that's where I kind of found like that was fun for me. So did shows at Harley dealerships, not a whole lot of them, but traveled around riding with people, and that was awesome. And then once I bought my house, I kind of just dialed it back a little bit and was like, if I get hurt, I'm kind of screwed. So went out to a couple drift events, got some ride-alongs from my buddy Eli, another from my buddy Lewis and Mike, and from there I was like, literally as soon as I was on my way home, I was on Marketplace looking for a car.
Hmm.
I traded my dirt bike for a BMW E46, and then went to a drift event like a month later, and the car was absolutely horrible. Everything broke. I mean, every lap I went out there, it was like the fans broke, and then I replaced someone at the track had fans, replaced the fans. Then it was still overheating, and then replaced that, and then it was, I mean, fixed that, bled the coolant. Went out for another lap, and then the car was just dying, and then the alignment was terrible. It was just a horrible experience. And I was like, all right, well, maybe this isn't the car for me. So I sold that and then bought the Z, and then by then it was winter time. So waited through the winter, got a drift sim. So behind me you can
Mm.
probably I have the simulator set up. So I got on there, started practicing, and then once winter was over, I was ready to go.
So what's the difference? I'm going to go kind of in reverse here. What's the difference between like an iRacing sim and a drift sim?
There's not much difference to the two. I mean, you can take an iRacing sim, add a handbrake, and you're good to go.
It's the handbrake
Uh,
then.
Pretty much, yeah.
Okay.
You don't for iRacing, if you want to be competitive, I feel like you need better parts. Like
Mm.
for Drift Sim, I have an eBay handbrake and like low level. The wheels, the main thing. My wheel's good. Everything else is like entry level stuff. My pedals, shifter, handbrake.
So I've never been inside a drift car. I've had multiple opportunities to do ride-alongs. I get motion sickness, and I just can't. My body can't take the G's. But I've always been curious, and I've had other drifters on before, but I've never really asked them this question. And the question is for you, like, what does that feel like? Because I would imagine it feels like maybe being in a boat.
I guess it's maybe similar to that. It really depends on how the car is set up. Like
Right.
if the car is a very stock car, stock seats, stock suspension, it's gonna feel like a boat. It's gonna be tippy all over the place. You're gonna be sliding in your seat. Um, but if you have a car with bucket seats, harnesses, maybe even, and good suspension where you're planted, I don't think you'd get motion sickness in something like that because you're really just the car is sliding and you're moving, but it's really not throwing you around much.
Yeah, and I guess that's what I meant by the boat. That was a very poor thing of me to say, but I mean, it feels like maybe you're just maybe on ice, like you're just kind of sliding and you're kind of counter steering before it happens.
Pretty much, yeah.
Yeah, that
And the
sounds kind of cool.
counter steering is not exactly chasing the wheel. The way the alignment's set up with the caster's so far forward that when you throw it into a corner, you kind of just release the wheel a little bit, and it kind of does it for you, and you got to just catch it at the
Oh,
right spot and counter a little bit as you're going through.
oh,
So.
that's wicked. Yeah, it's nothing like I would have imagined.
Yeah, if you have the car set up properly, I mean, it practically drives it for you. Not really, but you don't have to chase the wheel with your hands or anything like that.
So then the real skill set, besides a lot of practice, comes in because obviously there's a skill set. I've watched tandem before. I've watched the videos of you whipping around in your Z. What is the real skill set? Knowing when to grab the wheel and pull it out.
Knowing when to clutch kick, knowing when to grab the wheel. Left foot braking is big because you can slow the car down with left foot braking or handbrake. Obviously, get a clutch in and handbrake at the same time, so that's a big skill to learn. But yeah, I mean, I think left foot braking is probably the hardest one to figure out because you can do a lot with it. As far as like when you want to get in close to somebody and stay on them, you're kind of just
Mm.
riding the left foot and pedal to the floor on the right foot, or sometimes modulating a little bit. And then you can also use it to control your angle a little bit. A little more brake will throw a little more angle, and that'll also slow the car down a little bit more. So you just got to figure out that balance.
So you have to be really in tune then with your braking system setup. Like you can't, Hollywood will tell you you can just hop into a car and drift around corners, and maybe some stuntmen kind of can, but it sounds like you have to be basically one and super familiar with your vehicle and have a lot of reps to be able to kind of feather, almost like finding where the clutch would release in a manual transmission car. Play this game, right?
Exactly. Like if you want to go out there and drift a parking lot or whatever, yeah, you can kind of just like Hollywood, just throw them in a car and go. But if you want to be precise, you want to get in the zones in your lead runs or in your chase, you want to be on the person's door, tire touching the door without doing any damage other than marking it. You got to be pretty precise with what you're doing. And like I said, it is multiple controls. You have gas, clutch, brake, handbrake, steering. So. But that ties back into like my stunt riding. When you're doing a wheelie on a motorcycle, you're coming back and you're throttling and you got your clutch, but you also, if you don't want, when you go too far back, the only way to bring it back down is to hit the brake. So I think that was
Mm.
a easier transition for me. Not that the controls are in the same place or anything like that, but it just I don't have that like mental block of like normal driving versus stunt driving, I guess, if you will.
Yeah, and so going back even further, you had mentioned working with Harley for I think a few years. What were you doing with those? Was that those kind of the stunt biking?
So I wasn't working with Harley, but I've done dealership shows.
Okay.
Uh, I wasn't sponsored by them or anything like that. But yeah, we'd go out and just do shows in the parking lots, burnouts, wheelies, donuts, barrel races, all that.
What about drifting on a bike?
I can drift a bike. It's a lot harder than drifting a car. I'm not
Yeah.
great at it. I'm okay at it, but yeah, it's definitely tough.
So how long have you been drifting, and then, where do you want to take it from here?
I've been drifting for about a year and a half now. I'm not exactly too sure where I want to take it from here.
Right.
Started doing I did one competition end of last year. I've done three of 4 rounds, or they might have five. They haven't announced it yet, but I've done 3 rounds of Street Series. Actually, I'm sorry, I missed one. I did 2 rounds of Street Series this year, which is a Lock City Drift grassroots competition. And I think I just want to do more competitions and just see where that goes. Um, it's a lot of money to build a like competition car because I mean you're talking more power, you're talking more tires, more gas. Everything goes up exponentially. So I don't know how far into it I want to get, but grassroots competitions is kind of what I want to keep doing. It's just a lot of fun.
Do you have a tire sponsor? Gonna
I
need one
don't.
of those.
No, I buy Ironmans off of Amazon typically, and they're like right now $83 each, and those last me usually a full day, if not a little bit more. So they're not too bad.
What's the pathway forward typically if someone wants to go from grassroots and move on? And then typically, do you think because of your age, did you start late, or do you think there's really no, I mean, you've only been doing it for like a year and a half, so you may not have the answer to this, but in your opinion, should you have started earlier, or do you think it's one of those things where anybody can get in as long as their body can kind of handle it?
I think anybody can get in. I know people that are in their 60s that have just started recently as well.
Oh,
The
cool.
guy that runs up at Drift to East. Actually, there's a couple older guys. I'm not sure if quite 60. They might be late 50s, 60s, something like that. And they run up at Drift to East, and so you can get in at any age. To answer your question on how to move forward, if I was going to like pursue, like try to be a pro driver, my friend Eli is going through this right now. He built a pro level car and he actually just won his first pro-am competition, and that's at Lake
Nice.
Erie Speedway. He won it last weekend on Friday. And basically, you have to build a car that is comp ready. So I would say at least 500 horsepower ish, um, full cage, some kind of fire suppression. There's a lot more to it. I don't know the whole details on how to be like FD legal, I guess, Formula Drift legal. But yeah, first thing is you need the right car. Second thing, enter those competitions, and that's how you would get a pro license is if you win the series, and then you can get into Formula Drift and all that. I don't think that's something that I'm ever planning on doing. So, um, but I may, who knows, if I ever have a higher horsepower car, I may run some of those pro am competitions just for the heck of it.
I mean, like you mentioned, it's a very expensive thing to keep moving forward in, and I think the finances what holds a lot of people in any type of racing back is it's just such an expensive thing to get into. So, who do you look up to? Because you've only been in it for less than a couple of years. Is it one of those things where you and Eli are kind of like do your own thing, or are you like, hey, there's a Chris Forsberg out there, there's other people out there that I watch? Like, who gives you inspiration to push forward and try to learn off of?
There's definitely a lot of guys. First one that comes to mind, I would say Ryan Turek, if you're talking pro level. He actually is sponsored by Toyota, so ironically, that's pretty cool. But he's a local guy in New Hampshire, and I used to go to drift events back in the day, probably 2015, over 10 years ago, and he'd be there with some crazy car smoking out the place, and I always thought it was so cool. Didn't even know who he was. I have videos of him, and I was like, this guy is awesome. And come to find out, he's a local guy and he's a pro drifter. I've been on track with him, never drifted with him yet. But he's a pretty cool guy to talk to, and he's always that's the cool thing about drifting is everyone's always willing to share information. It's not like even if you're in competition with someone, if your car breaks, the other guy's team's over there helping you.
Oh,
Your
that's cool.
your main competition. It's not like circle track racing or drag racing where they're like those guys will come over and tell you, hey, you should put it at like 30 psi, and you're like, I don't think so, and you go out there on 30 psi, and you're like, okay, that was wrong, and the reason they did that is to sabotage you, basically. No, everybody's out there like sharing information. Everyone wants to see everyone succeed, even at the highest level, which is pretty cool.
What do you think has drawn you to this life just from like humble beginnings? Like, what were you doing as a teenager? What did you do in your 20s before you found this? I know you did the motorcycle stuff, but has it strictly been motorcycles up until recently?
Yeah, mostly dirt bikes since I was a kid. I mean, I always love riding dirt bikes, four wheelers, whatever. If it has a motor and wheels, I'm in. I mean, if someone wants to let me drive their sprint car or somebody wants to let me drive their cart, call me. I'm in. But there's a lot of motorsports I haven't tried that I'd love to. But yeah, I did. I had a Mazda Speed 3 right after high school,
Mm.
and that was a fun car. I had full bolt-ons and tune on it, and we'd go up to the drag strip like, every other Friday night, sometimes Wednesday nights for test and tune, just hang out, have a good time, and see what we could put down for numbers. So that was my first, I would say, introduction to motorsports. Actually, I'm sorry. Before that, I did a little bit of autocross when I was in high school.
Oh,
One of my friends um, had an IROC Z sitting in the yard, and we rebuilt it, and we went out and we did two or three races with it, and then it kind of got a little bit old because you don't get too many laps for the amount of money you pay to be there, at least at this place. But it was a lot of fun.
are there any cars? Are you a car person? I mean, I know you drift. It sounds like a stupid question, but I think we'd both know people that have cars that don't really, like your 350 is your means to getting better on the course. But is there like these are the cars that I would love to have realistically, and these are cars that I would love to have as a dream car? And then the same thing for bikes.
Yeah, for sure. So, I mean, I'm a car guy all the way around, I would say, and I'm just a gearhead all the way around. But cars that I'd love to have as a drift car, I would say a Nissan S13 Coupe.
Mm.
That'd be a really cool one. Dream car always has been McLaren F1 ever since it was a poster on my wall. And, you know, a car that I'd love to have that's attainable, I would probably say just as like a Sunday cruiser, probably like an '06 Pontiac GTO, something like that. I
Mm.
like those. Yeah.
Yeah, you don't hear that very much. And I think that's a car that a lot of people kind of forgotten about.
Yeah, they're
And
pretty
those cars
rare.
are pretty sick. Yeah.
Yeah. I mean,
Um,
I like that it looks like just your average car. If you don't know what it is, you just see it. It looks
yeah,
like your average car, and then you hear it, and you're like, wow, that thing has an LS in it.
right. Did you see the new one that Gordon Murray, the guy who designed the F1, released during Monterey Car Week? Have you seen that?
No, I didn't.
I want to say it's called the S1, like Sammy. I feel weird forgetting now, but it almost looks like a McLaren F1 modernized in every way, shape, and form. Same designer, and that's the first car I've seen in a long time where I look at it and I'm like, oh man, it's like that is the modern version. And
Is it still the three-seater?
yes,
That's awesome. That's one of the
Yes,
coolest things about that car. I mean, other than the engine, BMW engine, gold-plated engine bay, it's just like that car has everything you could want and more. And like,
have
imagine just cruising down the highway and you have two buddies like sitting here and here. It's near in the middle of an F1 car, you know? It's
little
basically an F1
buddies,
car with, yeah. I know you
little
probably can't have two big people in there.
little buddies. Have you been able to see one like at any of the track events? Have you gone to any of those type of events?
No, and I've never seen one at a track. I've seen a couple downtown Boston before, like outside of a hotel, and every time
Mm.
I see one, it's just jaw dropping.
Yeah, some of the bigger tracks when they have like real events, you may not even see the car out there, but someone will bring like their McLaren F1 out there. I've seen like the Fina one up close, and they've turned it on. It sounded really awesome. And then a few other events, and you're right, man. That's one of the cars that's a poster car and a dream car, but actually is just as cool, if not cooler in person, because there's so many cars out there that kind of don't fit that.
Yeah.
As far as biking goes, so other than breaking your back in 3 places, which is god awful, have you been pretty fortunate throughout the rest of your career on two wheels to not have anything too crazy?
Yeah, I mean, my first injury on a bike, I broke my toe. I just hit it off a rock. Not a big deal. Other than that, I've had like my fair share of sprained ankles and a whole ton of road rash, which will happen when you're doing wheelies. Especially when you're learning before you know how to use that brake, you loop it. And when you loop it, you go right over the back. And yeah, I definitely have scars on my back from that. So,
Yeah, I
look,
watch you guys that are willing to jump on anything with a motor, and I'm like, no, because I'm such a hard learner. I would wreck so badly, I probably would never get up. And to see you go from dirt bikes to stunting on Harleys to grassroots drifting, so you said there's some stuff out there you'd like to try that you haven't, like what?
well, sprint cars look pretty fun. That's like the dirt racing circle track.
The constant drift.
For sure. I would love to do a track day with my car, like a kind of time attack kind of style. That would be pretty cool. I would have to maybe either take the angle kit out of my car or just completely realign it and hope for the best. So we'll see about that one. Oh, I'd have to change the diff as well because my rear diff is welded. But we'll see about that maybe one of these days. But those are definitely a couple that I'd love to try.
Do you have any like normal tracks, like a NASA style track, near you? Because doing like a normal track day would seem like it'd be a lot easier than some of these other things.
So Thompson Speedway it's a road course and they
Okay.
have a small oval as well. And then New Hampshire Motor Speedway, like Loudon, that's like an hour from me up in New Hampshire. So they have a road course as well. And they do on their drift days, it's in a parking lot at the track.
So they're there for you, so you could do them, but you just haven't yet.
Yeah, exactly.
At what point do you think you're going to be able to master your drifting right now? And like, can you have a couple vehicles at once, or you're kind of like, this is my vehicle, I got to reconfigure it?
Yeah, as far as vehicles goes, I don't really have much garage space. My Z sits outside as it is, so I probably won't be getting a second. I'd probably have to get rid of that for that. The point of mastering it, I don't think anybody ever masters it. I think every time we're going out there, we're making progress and learning something new. Different situation every single time I go out. And a lot of times when I go to the track, I try to adjust things like change suspension setup, not setup, but like there's adjustments on the suspension, change tire pressures, things like that, just to see what it does to the car and see how I drive and how I react so that I can get better. Maybe I like that setup better, maybe I didn't. But yeah, that's one of those things that I like to change up and see if it helps.
What would you say is the next thing you want to get better at?
Right now I'm getting better in the chase. So when the lead car is going, I'm getting better at like keeping close proximity. So that's kind of what I've been focusing on is just making sure I'm on that lead car's door and not hitting them and reacting correctly. And yeah, that's one of the biggest things in competitions that you want to do is make sure that you're close in proximity, matching angle, and not hitting them. So that's definitely the biggest one right now that I'm working on.
And there's no way you can't really practice that, right? That's like real repetitions.
You can practice it on the drift sim.
Really?
So I practice a lot on there, and then also you just need to go out and do it. And luckily, I have friends that trust me enough to be behind them and get on them. And unfortunately, my car is hammered from trusting some of my friends to get on me, but it happens.
So with the sim, right? So if you're practicing that, does the car that you're going against, is that you as a ghost car, or is it just kind of a random car, and is it consistent? Because that's one thing. That's why I figured like it'd be harder to practice it on the sim, because when you're out there with a real person, that's literally a real person like you behind the wheel. So any number of combination of things could change.
Yeah, so there's lobbies on there where you can go on, and they have like they call them AI lobbies, but they're not really AI. It's just a recorded run, and you're chasing it, and it's always a
Mm,
perfect run. It's always the same run. So that's the best place to go and practice in the beginning. And then after that, you just go on and find random people, or if your friends are on, you chase your friends, and yeah, they can spin out in front of you, and it's really good when they do because you get to react and see what you need to do to avoid that car. And if you wreck, who cares? You hit the reset button. Unfortunately, in the real car, we don't have the reset button.
correct. So if I wanted to do this, like, what would you tell someone who comes up to you and says, "Hey, how do I get started? I want to do this as well."
I would tell you figure out what car you want. I could give you a list of cars that are good starters, like an E36, E46, 350Z, things like that. Low power. I would tell you probably weld the diff and go out on the track stock. All you got to do is just disable like your ABS traction control. Go out on the track stock. Typically, tracks will have a skid pad, so it's just a wide open lot, and you go out there and you just try it out and see if you like it, and go from there. And then as you progress, you start throwing parts at it. So you start using all the angle that the car has. You put an angle kit so you have more steering angle, and then eventually you'll put a hydraulic handbrake in, change the suspension up, all kinds of stuff like that.
What would you do differently if you started tomorrow than when you started a year and a half ago? Start
Um,
off with the 350.
Yeah, I probably would start off with the 350. I don't think there's much I'd change. I jumped into it with an angle kit, and I got the hydraulic handbrake later. So a lot of people say start without the angle kit so you're not relying on high angle, but I think I drive pretty good. I'm not always on full lock, so that's pretty good. I don't think I'd change much.
Where do you see yourself in 2 years doing this? Still doing it?
I would say in 2 years I'll still be doing it. Probably still doing the same thing. Hopefully traveling a little more, seeing different tracks. I like experience in different tracks. Um, every layout's different, every type of pavement's different, stuff like that. So it would be cool to travel as well, though.
Do you have a checklist of tracks you want to hit?
Summit Point for sure in West Virginia. That's definitely one of them. I think the next one I'm going to go to in a couple months is E-Town, and that's down in New Jersey. Other than that, I don't.
From what you've known, do they have tracks that are kind of known as like iconic tracks? Like for regular road races, like everyone wants to go to COTA, right? In Austin, and everyone wants to go to Road Atlanta, everyone wants to go to Road America.
Yeah, I don't know if there's any that's like iconic like that, but there's everyone wants to drift like let's say Laguna Seca, but that's not going to happen because they don't have
You
like
know,
drift days out there. The pros get to do it, but that's not something everybody gets to do. I guess E-Town in New Jersey is a pretty iconic one. It's been there for a long time, and a lot of people learn to drift there. They have a school. Um, so that's one. But other than that, no, I don't think there is other than like pro tracks, but you don't really get to go on those.
not yet.
Not if you're not a pro. Yeah.
So where can people go to follow your adventures?
On Instagram, pop it up Polly 617. I don't really post anything else. I don't have YouTube or anything like that.
Not yet.
No, not yet.
Get some videos together and throw them up on YouTube, and then I'll make sure I put those or put that in the description.
Yeah, I appreciate it. Thank you.
Yeah, of course. Thanks. I want to thank Paul Bonnett for joining today's show. If you like this episode, if you like that conversation, and you want to hear more like that, let me know. You can follow him on Instagram at popituppaulie617. I did promise him the next time he comes into town to let me know, and he will be driving the NSX. That's right. He asked for a ride, and I go, no. You can drive it, just, don't wear my tires out. And that being said, I want to thank Right Honda, Right Toyota, Arcus Foundry Spark Forge, Auto Canyon, officially licensed Honda and Acura gear, the Warehouse Event Center in Mesa. Also want to thank the Patreon business supporters, Kuya Automotive out of Winter Garden, Florida, Automotive Specialty Tool out of Owings Mills, Maryland, Big House Small Home Design out of Ashburn, Virginia, and Traverse City, Michigan, the Lucky Breaks Sports Breakers out of Caledonia, Michigan, and of course, Shaping Success with Wes Tankersley out of Boise, Idaho. You should watch myself and Wes Tankersley every Wednesday. It's not a podcast, but it is One Drink Wednesday on Instagram. Follow us at One Drink Wednesday. I also want to thank my personal Patreon supporters, Mark Stoneman, Catherine Cox, Sadie Ramos, Richard Graves, Drew Bunkley, Nate Robertson, Andre Mullins, Byron Jones. Make sure you're following the show at Hard Parking Pod on Instagram. Make sure you're subscribed on the YouTube at Hard Parking. Questions, comments, or concerns, info at Hard Parking. And you can also follow me at jfenning on Instagram. And I will talk to you all next week.
Shut up!